Hello everyone and welcome to the Hockey Hub. So today we're going to be taking a look at some of the recent news to start off this NHL season. Now obviously the NHL 2020-2021 season has kicked off and it's been an exciting start. Some teams are getting off to a slow start like the Pittsburgh Penguins, while other teams like the Washington Capitals and the Philadelphia Flyers have started out red hot. We're already starting to see some storylines develop and it's going to make for an interesting season, and we're going to talk about some of these storylines. Now to start off with the rookie Kirill Kaprizov. Now, Kirill Kaprizov has been an interesting name to watch since the start of this season. Kaprizov has had an instant impact for the Minnesota Wild. He scored the OT winner and added 2 assists in his debut game against the LA Kings, and then in his second game against the LA Kings, he had an assist on the overtime winner as well. So Kaprizov has been an instant impact for the Minnesota Wild, and this is a piece that the Minnesota Wild really need. Kaprizov has been one of the most hyped prospects in the NHL, and now that he's finally here, that must be really exciting for the Minnesota Wild and their fans, as he's gotten off to a hot start. He's even been named one of the NHL Stars of the Week, and that's obviously is an honor for a young kid like him. So that's been a good start for the Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov, and he's the early favorite for the Calder Trophy. Then there's the trade speculation. Now obviously there's the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation, but I'm going to dedicate an entire video to that on its own, since that is the most talked about story right now on the trade speculation and rumors front. Patrick Laine's name is out there as well, but obviously Laine isn't getting as much attention right now since talks with him and the trade rumors have kind of died down a little bit. Laine is content with playing this season in Winnipeg, and there's no real urge to trade him. And then there's also Jack Roslovic in Winnipeg. Now Roslovic has been an interesting name for the past couple of seasons. He's a first-round pick, and he hasn't been exactly able to push his way into a top-6 role in Winnipeg's lineup. I do think that Roslovic is a decent forward, and apparently a team like the Pittsburgh Penguins is heavily interested in him. At the time that I'm recording this video, Roslovic has not been traded anywhere yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went to a team like Pittsburgh. Obviously, Pittsburgh has struggled a bit, and we're going to get into that now. The Pittsburgh Penguins haven't had a great start to their season. They brutally lost their first 2 games to the Philadelphia Flyers, and one of the main names to blame for that was actually Tristan Jarry. While Murray's been actually having a couple solid games in Ottawa, Jarry has really been underperforming in Pittsburgh, putting up like a 750-something save percentage. His numbers are simply awful in his first 2 starts. They did win their most recent game against the Washington Capitals in a shootout, but that being said, it wasn't an overly impressive win. Malkin kind of still looked a little bit invisible out there. He hasn't been able to make a difference, and it wasn't still a very, great breakout performance. So obviously, Jim Rutherford is exploring all options to improve this Pittsburgh team, and apparently Jack Roslovic is a name that he's seriously interested in. The problem there is Winnipeg is looking at getting back a defenseman, and I don't think that Pittsburgh has a lot to offer on the blue line. Mike Matheson just got hurt, and their blue line in general isn't the strongest, nor do they have a lot of great blue line prospects. Then there's the whole situation with the Dallas Stars and the fact that they've needed to reschedule their games due to, the COVID protocol. We've seen quite a few players out with the COVID protocol, some of the most notable names being JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks. But so far, the league has managed it. It's just the Dallas Stars have been the problem. So Dallas's games have been pushed back to January 22nd, and so the entire schedule kind of gets shifted around. And unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of this season. The schedule makers for the NHL are really going to have a big challenge ahead of them when it comes to the season. Teams are going to get infected. Teams are going to have to shut down their facilities for, up to 2 weeks, obviously. So even though, we have these taxi squads and we have, these extra players that you can call up, if most of the team is infected with COVID, they have to reschedule games. And that's been the case with Dallas. That's why Florida didn't start playing until, against Chicago on Sunday night. So this is going to affect other teams in their division as well, but I think Dallas is going to be okay once puck drops. And if Dallas Stars fans want to try and get some sort of silver lining out of this, it's less games that they'll have to miss Seguin and Bishop for. So that's the one small positive. Although I'm sure they're not happy about it. The NHL has been back for almost a week and they haven't been able to see their team play yet, and they're not going to until the 22nd. The Canadian division has been an interesting one to watch early on. Now, I think maybe the most interesting team actually has been the Ottawa Senators. They had a tough back-to-back start against the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they actually beat the Leafs in their first game in what was a convincing 5-3 win. And then, in a very close game, they lost 3-2 to the Leafs. I do understand that the Leafs outperformed them in that 3-2 game, but Matt Murray really kept them in, and Murray's been solid for them early on as well. So, this Ottawa team is going to make things interesting, and when you look at this entire Canadian division, it's going to be tough. You can make a case for almost every team in the division to, make the playoffs, and we're already starting to see some teams underperform a little bit that wasn't necessarily expected. But that being said, it's so early on in the schedule that we're not really going to know how the divisions are going to shake out, or at least have a vague idea of it until about 10 or so games into the season. A team like Toronto is off to a decent start, although they have struggled with teams like Montreal and Ottawa, who, Ottawa's not expected to be a powerhouse of a division, and Montreal is kind of a wild card right now. So the Canadian division, as predicted, has probably been the most interesting one to watch. The Edmonton Oilers goaltending situation has been a very interesting one to watch as well. They did have decent goaltending depth, keyword is depth there, not actual quality goaltending, heading into the regular season. They had Anton Forsberg and then Mike Smith as the backup, Mikko Koskinen as the starter, and Stuart Skinner as the fourth string. Problem now is that Anton Forsberg was actually claimed on waivers, and then Mike Smith is on the long-term injured reserve, which means he's going to miss at least 10 games, or probably more. So Edmonton now is coasting with 2 goalies. They did claim a goalie off waivers from the LA Kings, but he still has to go through the quarantine period. So they're really in tough. Ken Holland reached out to Jimmy Howard, but Jimmy Howard said he was retiring, so that's kind of another bit of news there. A good little career for Jimmy Howard as a long-time Detroit Red Wing. But either way, so Edmonton really needs to figure out a solution for this goaltending scenario. They can't rely on Mikko Koskinen to start every single game, and it appears they don't have a lot of faith in Stuart Skinner. Honestly, I would give Skinner a try. They don't have a lot to lose at this point. If Koskinen's going to be overworked, he's not going to play that good, and it's not like Koskinen is a bona fide star starting goaltender anyways. So Edmonton really has some goaltending concerns, and they're probably going to have to play a bit more conservative around their goaltending if they're going to wear a guy like Mikko Koskinen, which means they're probably not going to be as dangerous as an offensive team, and it might end up hurting their record. And for the final little story that I want to talk about so far, and actually, not really a story that's getting a lot of coverage right now, but since I've, been watching as much games as I can, I think this has been kind of an interesting thing to watch. The New Jersey Devils and Boston Bruins games, I think, were a lot closer than anybody expected. Both games heading into overtime, and both teams taking one each. Mackenzie Blackwood was simply sensational for the New Jersey Devils. He's got a .950 save percentage right now, and he's playing like one of the best goalies in the NHL, and I think, he keeps playing like this, he will cement himself as one of the best goalies in the NHL. He's a tremendously underrated young goaltender, and he's really keeping New Jersey in it. But that being said, New Jersey isn't playing bad either. So I don't know if this is more so about maybe the New Jersey Devils are better than everybody thought, or Boston is really struggling more than anyone thought. Obviously, Boston, they lost a lot. They lost Torrey Krug, their captain Zdeno Chara, but right now they're also missing David Pastrnak and David Krejci to injury. So, missing those guys out of the lineup really hurts Boston, and it really hurts their offense, and they haven't been able to score a 5-on-5 goal yet. So even though, they've got Marchand in the lineup, he's playing, they got Bergeron, they got Jake DeBrusk, the offense really hasn't been there, and that's either because of Mackenzie Blackwood or because maybe the Boston Bruins are starting to struggle. So there has been some interesting headlines to start out this NHL 2020-2021 season, and personally I can't wait to, keep the season going along. It's already been exciting to watch some of these games, and, I can't wait until we get into some of the great rivalry games like the Battle of Alberta. We've already seen some of these good rivalry games like Montreal-Toronto, Philadelphia-Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh-Washington. So, this schedule is going to make for great rivalries and exciting hockey. But that does it for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching till the end. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys later. Bye for now.